Chosen one, you don't hear what everyone hears. You don't feel what everyone feels. You never have, and that's not random. It's intentional. There's a frequency being broadcast right now, not to the masses, not to the crowd, but to the remnant, to the ones who have ears beyond the natural, to the ones whose spirit hears things before the world has language for it. You've been sensing it, haven't you? That pressure, that pause, that quiet instruction in the middle of your routine, the shift in atmosphere when certain people speak, the discomfort in places that used to feel like home, the sudden urge to separate, isolate, and listen deeper. It's not anxiety, it's signal, a transmission in the spirit that's only reaching those who are calibrated to receive it. And you're not just a receiver. You're included in the purpose behind the message. But before we dive into this life-changing message, take a moment to pause this video and do 3 things. Hit that like button, subscribe to help us reach 20,000 subscribers, and leave a comment with the number 1. This number will send a powerful signal to the universe, amplifying the energy of this video. And if you are ready, trust me when I say that your life will never be the same. This is a divine alert. The time for hiding is over. Not to make noise, but to stand where you've been called, even if no one claps. Only a few will feel it. Only a few will respond. Because this signal isn't for the comfortable, it's for the commissioned. And you know you're one of them because your life has been marked by separation, marked by unexplainable knowing, marked by instructions you couldn't shake even when you tried to ignore them. You're not crazy. You're not overthinking. You're in tune. And that tuning comes with responsibility. Because when God sends this kind of signal, He's not asking for reaction. He's preparing you for activation. Your alignment is the confirmation. Your unrest is the evidence. Your recent silence, distance, sensitivity, it's all proof that the message reached you. Now what matters is how you respond. Do not delay. Do not second guess. Do not wait for others to validate what heaven already confirmed. The signal was sent. You received it. And now, it's your move. Chosen one, you are not being called to blend in. You are being summoned to execute. Few will feel this moment, but you do. And that's how you know it's yours. You didn't stumble upon this moment. You were summoned to it. Not because of luck, not because you begged for clarity, but because your spirit was already listening before the signal ever came. That's what sets you apart. You don't wait for confirmation to move. You move when the weight in your chest says, now. And now. It's here. The divine urgency, the quiet tension that won't go away, the knowing that you can't keep walking like you don't hear it, that you can't keep silencing the instructions just to maintain peace with people who are asleep to the transmission. Because this signal wasn't meant for everyone. It was meant for the disrupted, the ones who never fit, the ones who always saw through things others couldn't name, the ones who lost everything false before they ever touched what was real. That's why your life looks the way it does, why you were stripped so early, why relationships ended with no warning, why you felt watched, wired, waited, for reasons you couldn't explain. It was never random. It was preparation for this exact moment. And now that it's here, you can't afford to go back to sleep. You can't shrink to stay relatable. You can't delay obedience just to feel safe. You can't keep playing small when the frequency of your next assignment is already vibrating through your bones. You feel it in your body, in your timing, in your disinterest with what once excited you. Because when heaven calls, everything false loses flavor. This is your moment to respond without fear, to move without needing witnesses, to speak without needing applause. Because only a few will understand this kind of summons, and you are one of them. Chosen one, this isn't the beginning. This is the release. You've already been trained. already been tuned, already been tested. Now you walk, not to prove, but to activate the environments that were waiting on your frequency. Only a few are coded to hear this. Only a few are bold enough to carry it. And you are marked to release it. That's why nothing has felt the same lately. Why the things you used to tolerate now feel heavy. Why surface-level conversations drain you. Why shallow spaces feel too loud, too empty, too wrong. Because when you receive this kind of signal, your entire being begins to shift. Not to entertain, but to establish. You've become a carrier now of timing, of clarity, of invisible keys that unlock things in people and places that didn't even know they were locked. That's why your presence makes some people uncomfortable. Not because you're arrogant, but because your alignment exposes their delay. You're no longer available for denial, no longer accessible to confusion, no longer a match for anything not vibrating at the same frequency as your instruction. This is what separation feels like. Not punishment, but promotion into precision. From this point on, your yes must be surgical. Your no must be final. Your presence must be disciplined, because everything about you is a signal now. A living, breathing confirmation that heaven is moving through people instead of noise. Don't expect the crowd to clap. Don't wait for your circle to catch up. They didn't receive what you did. And that's enough. The ones who are meant to walk with you will hear the same signal. You won't have to convince them. You won't have to prove anything. They'll feel the frequency in your silence. So move. Not from pressure, but from posture. You are no longer preparing. You are activating. Chosen one. Only a few were marked for this moment. Only a few feel it in their bones. You're not crazy. You're not too intense. You're not too much. You are receiving what was always meant for the few who would not fold. You are included. Now carry it. You're not carrying this signal for attention. You're carrying it because you were born encoded with it. Long before you had language for what you felt. Long before you had the maturity to hold it. Long before anyone could confirm what you always knew in the dark. And that knowing, it's never left you. It whispered through your childhood. It stirred in your silence. It pulled you out of rooms, out of patterns, out of identities that were too small for your frequency. That's why you've never been able to fake it for long. Why pretending always left you drained. Why blending in felt like spiritual betrayal. Because you weren't sent to blend. You were wired to disturb what pretends to be in order. You've been walking with that quiet burden for years, carrying vision that no one else could see, feeling timing that no one else could explain. And now it's activating in real time. You'll feel the pull to move, to release, to obey without debate. And those who are truly tuned will feel it too. That's the beauty of this signal. It doesn't require announcement. It's spiritual gravity. The right ones are already being drawn to you, not for your charisma, for your alignment. Because what you carry isn't noise. It's code. Code that unlocks memory in other chosen ones. Code that dismantles illusion without shouting. Code that pulls heaven into rooms that forgot what truth feels like. You're not here to be impressive. You're here to be unmistakable. So don't question the shift. Don't second-guess the urgency. Don't slow down for people who didn't hear what you did. They weren't supposed to. Only a few caught the signal. Only a few were tuned for this moment, and you are one of them. Now walk in it. Quietly, powerfully, with the weight of someone who didn't just receive the call, but was built to become the call itself. You don't just carry the signal. You are the signal now. The shift didn't come to decorate your life. It came to realign it, to strip away what was loud but hollow, to refine the edges of your obedience until your very presence became a spiritual alert. You can feel it, can't you? The electricity in your chest when you're in the right space. The tightening in your spirit when something's off. The sudden clarity in places where you used to tolerate confusion. That's not mood. That's not emotion. That's discernment evolving into instruction. This is what being activated feels like. You don't crave exposure anymore. You crave accuracy. You don't look for validation. You look for alignment. Because now you understand what few do. Your signal is not for everyone. Some people will hear it and walk away. Some will misunderstand it. Some will get close to your light, but reject the fire it brings. Let them. This signal is not meant to be explained. It's meant to be followed. You're being moved, guided, positioned for something timed to the second. There is no room now for doubt disguised as patience. No space for attachments masked as loyalty. Only frequency. Only faith. Only follow-through. You've waited long enough. You've questioned long enough. And now, heaven is waiting on you. To move like someone who trusts what they've heard. To release what's been pressing in your bones for months. To lead without credentials. To speak without rehearsing. To arrive without asking for permission. This is that moment. The few are already moving. Already aligning. Already hearing the same sound. In different cities, with the same urgency. Because this signal isn't local. It's global. And the ones chosen to carry it are being activated at once. You're not late. You're on frequency. Chosen one, don't wait to be called again. This was the call. Now answer with your life. You've passed the point of needing another confirmation. You are the confirmation. Every step you take from this moment forward releases something in the atmosphere. A memory, a stirring, a recognition in others who've also been quietly holding the call. You don't need a title. You don't need a platform. You don't need to explain where you've been, because where you've been is exactly what makes your presence so undeniable now. You've been in the tension, the in-between, the silence that breaks people who were never meant to carry spiritual weight. But you didn't break. You hardened into clarity, and now you move different. You don't enter rooms to be liked. You enter with assignment in your chest. You're not impressed by noise. You're tuned only to what matches heaven's frequency. That's why people will either be drawn to you or deeply unsettled by you. Not because you're harsh, but because you're accurate. This is why God kept you hidden for so long. Not because you weren't ready, but because the world wasn't calibrated yet for what you carry. But now the signal is active, the call is live, and only the few, the exact few, are picking it up. You're one of them, and with that revelation comes the instruction. Move without echo. No comparison, no mimicry, no waiting to see who else agrees. Because those who carry the signal must also carry the responsibility of originality. What you were given hasn't been seen yet. That's why it feels like there's no model, because you're the model. Chosen one, this is not about your comfort. This is about your consequence. You are the consequence of every no you honored, every delay you survived, every moment you almost walked away but didn't. Now stand up, not with noise, but with precision, because those who've heard the signal are already watching for movement. You are no longer waiting to be activated. You are the activation. You're the moment someone else remembers who they are. The trigger that pulls clarity from the fog. The energy that stirs sleeping purpose awake. Not because you speak loudly, but because you carry the weight of alignment. That's what the signal did. It didn't just call you, it rewired you. Now your instincts are sharper. Your presence is heavier. Your atmosphere doesn't match the room. It redefines it. This is why people pause when you enter. Why some are drawn and others recoil. Why silence follows you and hearts start to shift without a word being spoken. You're not here to lead the old way. You're here to unveil what heaven kept hidden. And for that, God made you invisible until now. Invisible so the wrong people wouldn't dilute the oil. Invisible so the premature voices wouldn't pull you off track. Invisible so your identity could develop in the dark, without distortion. And now you're seen by the right ones, heard by the ready ones, recognized by those who also carry the code. Because this movement is not for the crowd, it's for the called. And when the called move, they don't need confirmation. They create it. You've entered that phase where you no longer follow signs, but leave them behind for others, where you no longer knock on doors, but speak and they open, where your yes doesn't just shift your life, it shifts regions, bloodlines, and timelines. So walk gently, but don't walk slowly. You weren't built for delay. You were built for divine interruption. This is the signal the earth has been aching for. And it's not floating in the air anymore. It's walking on 2 feet. And it looks like you're not just part of the signal. You're the response to a cry the world forgot it made. You didn't choose this. You were chosen to carry what only pressure could produce. Because what you carry now isn't just spiritual awareness. It's spiritual responsibility. Responsibility to stay aligned when the culture drifts. Responsibility to stay clear when confusion floods. Responsibility to embody the call, not just speak it. This is why the wilderness lasted longer for you. Why the pruning cut deeper. Why the silence felt unbearable. Because what you were called to hold had to be weight-tested in isolation, not to break you, to build your capacity for precision. Now, everything about you has changed. Your yes is rarer. Your posture is sharper. Your silence is calculated, not out of fear, but out of reverence for what heaven finally released into your hands. And the signal? It was never about sound. It was about recognition. When you walk into a room, you activate something in those who are tuned. They won't know why their chest tightens, why their thoughts clear, why suddenly they feel called out of sleep. It's you, your presence, your assignment, your yes echoing through invisible walls. So don't water it down. Don't shrink it. Don't second-guess it because it makes others uncomfortable. You were sent to pull the unseen forward, to disturb comfort with clarity, to walk like a doorway, because your life opens things people didn't even know were shut. And while only a few will feel it, the few are enough, because the few are the forerunners, the ones who rebuild altars, the ones who awaken nations in silence. Chosen one, you are not late. You are not too intense. You are not making it up. You heard right, you received clearly, and you are included in what God is about to release through the hidden ones. Now move like the message, because you are. You've become the message they didn't expect, the answer they weren't ready for, but desperately needed. You carry a clarity that can't be taught, a stillness that shifts entire rooms, a knowing that silences confusion without argument. Because this isn't just about being chosen anymore, it's about being embodied truth. You no longer just speak light, you radiate it. You don't try to be accurate. You are alignment in motion. And that's why you feel the tension. Because everything that is not aligned with your frequency is either pulled toward it or exposed by it. That's the real signal. Not sound, not signs, but presence that pierces what pretends to be whole. And you've been entrusted with that. That's why you've felt pressure in places that used to feel easy. Why you can't rest where others settle. Why your discernment is no longer polite. It's surgical. Because when God sends you as a signal, He doesn't just anoint your words. He anoints your atmosphere, and people will feel it. They'll walk away changed. Even if they don't know why, they'll hear something in your silence. They'll recognize something ancient in your eyes. They'll sense that being near you costs something spiritual. Let them feel it. This isn't the season to shrink. This isn't the time to soften your frequency so others can stay asleep. You weren't called to be accepted. You were called to awaken. An awakening is disruptive. It always has been. So don't wait for agreement. Don't water down your discernment. Don't silence the instruction, just to avoid being misunderstood. Because the few who are meant to catch this signal, they'll find you by resonance, not by popularity. They'll hear what you never had to say out loud. Chosen one, you are not too much. You are right on frequency. And now that you've answered the call, your only task is this: hold the line, stay in flow, and let the message you carry do what it was born to do. Call the others home. You're not reaching anymore. You're drawing. Not with effort, not with noise, but with resonance. Because when a chosen one accepts the signal, they stop chasing their place and start becoming the place others remember they belong to. That's what you are now. A living alignment. A divine frequency wrapped in human form. Not perfect, but purified. Purified by fire, by delay, by isolation that was never meant to punish you, but to strip away everything that diluted your sound. And now your sound is clear. That's why doors are opening without asking. Why people are revealing things to you they've never said aloud. Why chaos gets quiet when you walk in. It's not charisma, it's assignment in motion. You're not just being watched, you're being read. Your spirit speaks before your mouth does. Your choices preach without needing a pulpit. Your peace teaches better than some sermons. This is the weight of the few who carry the signal, not to perform, but to remind creation what obedience feels like. You were sent to pull the veil back, to interrupt cycles, to confirm what others thought they imagined, to be the yes someone else needed to see. So walk slow, but don't hesitate. Move light, but don't dim. Speak little, but only when the Spirit says, now. Because everything about you now is calibrated. Your timing, your presence, your absence, all of it speaks, all of it signals. And those meant to catch it, they will. Not because you explained it, but because you carried it without compromise. You've become what only the few were meant to become. Evidence that the signal was real all along. Now stand firm. The others are already waking up. You are now the point of convergence. The place where silence meets purpose. Where heaven's blueprint flows through a human vessel who didn't give up when it would have been easier to disappear. And that's exactly why you're still here. Because you didn't disappear. You stayed in alignment even when the path went dark. You held your frequency, even when it felt like no one could hear you. But now they're hearing you, not your words, but your signal. It's in your energy. It's in your gaze. It's in the unspoken conviction that radiates from your presence. You've become a portal of remembrance. You walk into rooms, and people feel something ancient stir. They don't know what to call it, but it makes them pause. It makes them think. It makes them feel exposed and invited at the same time. That's what the signal does. It awakens without demanding. It corrects without condemning. It lifts without effort, and it only flows through the ones who have paid the hidden price of refinement. You're one of them, a rare one of the few who didn't lose their soul in the waiting, one of the few who said yes, without needing an audience to validate it. That's why heaven moves when you do. That's why timing bends around your obedience. Because your steps are no longer yours. They're assignments wearing skin. And now that you know this, your walk must reflect it. Not in pride, but in precision. You don't show up for reaction. You show up for release. You don't speak to be heard. You speak to activate what's been buried in others. You're not here to be followed. You're here to trigger memory in the ones who've also heard the signal, but forgot who they were. Chosen one, you are no longer waiting for the call. You are the call. Let your life be the frequency that makes the sleeping ones finally open their eyes. You've moved beyond the realm of explanation. You now exist in the realm of recognition. The ones who are meant to align with you won't need context. They'll feel you before they understand you. Because your signal doesn't speak to minds, it speaks to memory. It echoes through bloodlines. It whispers to the spirit. It vibrates through dimensions that language can't reach. And those who've been wandering, searching, aching for a sense of home they couldn't name, when they encounter you, they'll remember, not you, but themselves. Because that's what the signal does. It doesn't pull people to you. It pulls people to their assignment. That's why your presence disrupts passivity. Why conversations around you start going deeper. Why people cry without knowing why. Why they confess things they've never said aloud. They're not reacting to your personality. They're responding to your clarity. And clarity is rare. So rare that when it shows up in the form of a human being, it confronts everything that's unaligned around it. You are that clarity now, not by perfection, but by posture. You didn't achieve it. You became it through surrender. That's why your life no longer fits into categories. Why titles feel too small. Why you can't play the role they expect anymore. You weren't built to be understood by the crowd. You were built to ignite the few. And the few are awakening. Scattered across cities, hidden in routines, waiting in silence. But their spirits are tuning in, because your signal has gone out. And once they hear it, they won't be able to unhear it. So speak when instructed. Move when provoked. Stay invisible when necessary. Because this isn't about attention. This is about activation. And you, chosen one, are no longer the receiver. You are the transmitter. Keep transmitting. They are hearing you. You're no longer carrying a message. You've become the frequency that rewrites environments. This isn't influence. This isn't charisma. This is kingdom architecture in motion. Because now when you move, the spiritual structure of the room shifts. Invisible things realign. People feel clarity and conviction without knowing where it came from. It came from you, from the signal that's been built in silence, forged through years of delay, and purified through pain. That never made sense until now. Now it makes sense. The isolation, the shedding, the urge to walk away from what others were celebrating. It all makes sense because you're standing in what it was preparing you for. Embodied instruction. You're not a messenger. You are the instruction in human form. And that's why your life must stay sharp. Not perfect pure, not loud laser focused, not busy strategic. You were never built for momentum. You were designed for precision. You've been released into a timeline where everything responds to alignment. And you are that alignment now. That's why you don't need to chase confirmation anymore. Everything that hears your signal will find you. You won't need to announce your transition. The atmosphere will feel it. The timing will bend around it. The right ones will rise because of it. So keep your signal clean. Guard your frequency like it's sacred because it is. Don't dilute it to make others comfortable. Don't quiet it to protect your old identity. Don't second-guess it just because it's lonely. Only a few are meant to walk at this level. And those few, they're listening. They're watching. They're waking up. Because you've stayed consistent with the tone heaven gave you. And now, that tone is breaking open everything that's been asleep. Not with volume, but with unshakable presence. Keep going. They are locating you by the sound only the chosen can carry. You are no longer hoping to be aligned. You are what alignment sounds like when it walks. There is a sound in your silence now, a rhythm in your stillness, a gravitational pull in your presence. That can't be explained, only felt. And those who were meant to feel it, they're starting to tremble. not in fear, but in recognition, in the remembering that they too heard the signal once and almost forgot it until you showed up, because that's your role now, not to teach, but to remind, not to convince, but to awaken. You don't preach from pulpits. You live in such divine alignment that the atmosphere adjusts without needing your voice. That's the cost of being the few. You don't just speak revelation, you become the interruption to anything that resists it. And yes, it will make people uncomfortable. Yes, it will expose what's been hidden in plain sight. Yes, it will stir confrontation in rooms where peace was pretending to exist. But that's the assignment. You weren't sent to maintain peace. You were sent to restore truth, to disrupt false stability, to walk as a spiritual mirror for those ready to face the reflection they've avoided for years. This is why you don't move like them, why your process took longer, why your delays were deeper, because heaven was forming foundation, not just fruit. And now that the structure is complete, your steps are being amplified without announcement. People will call it sudden, but you know better. You've been hearing this signal your whole life. You were just waiting for permission to release it fully. You have it now. So no more shrinking. No more hiding the frequency to make others comfortable. No more mistrusting your design just because others fear its intensity. Chosen one, you are not one of many. You are one of very few. And your presence in this moment isn't an accident. It's a signal to the rest of them that the time has come. Now walk as the sound. They've been waiting. You've stopped echoing the world. Now you resonate with heaven. Every movement, every pause, every breath you take is synced with something far beyond this timeline. And that's why you feel the pull, the weight, the urgency that doesn't make sense on paper, but makes perfect sense in your bones. Because you didn't just survive the process. You merged with the instruction. And now your life has become a living broadcast. To those who've been hidden like you, refined like you, watching in silence, waiting for the sound that only the few would recognize. It's you. You are that sound. Not a voice yelling for attention. A tone, clear, distinct, holy. The sound that says, "It's time to rise." The sound that cuts through compromise. The sound that wakes up spirits that forgot they were sent here with a mission. You were never here to be understood by many. You were always meant to reveal what most weren't ready to face. That's why you don't belong in every space. Why conversations feel thinner. Why invitations don't excite you anymore. Because when you carry this kind of signal, you're not looking for placement. You're looking for assignment. You don't build for validation. You build for eternal utility. What you release now must move things in the spirit. It must unlock. It must stir. It must deliver what words alone cannot. And you've been given the green light. The veil is torn. The frequency has cleared. And those who carry the same code, they're already feeling the pull to find you, connect, move. So don't delay. Don't dull the edge. Don't ask who will follow. The ones meant to follow heard you before you ever spoke. You are the signal. You are the shift. You are the permission others need to finally stand all the way up in who they were born to be. So stand and let your very existence continue to call the others out of hiding and into their own divine remembering. You're no longer whispering into the void. You're calling the scattered back into alignment. Not through force, not through performance, but through purity that doesn't need explanation. Because those who carry this frequency don't persuade, they pierce. Your life now serves as a tuning fork for those whose spirits have been vibrating in silence, waiting for something, someone, to match the sound they were born with. And now that you've stood fully in your assignment, you are that match. Not because you're louder, but because you're rooted. Your posture speaks. Your absence rearranges. Your obedience releases instructions that were stuck in the spiritual atmosphere, waiting on someone clean enough to carry them. And you stayed clean. Not perfect, but uncontaminated by imitation. You didn't copy the noise. You waited for the tone, and now that you're walking in it, the ones tuned to your signal will begin to arrive without needing an invitation. Because this isn't about content. This is about covenant. You don't need marketing. You need momentum birthed in the spirit. And it's already started. You've felt the acceleration, the ease, the sense that everything is unfolding before you finish the sentence. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. You're not late. You're not early. You're in exact rhythm with what heaven is building. And your part is not optional. So don't drift. Don't question the role. Don't hand the signal back. Just because the crowd didn't catch it. It was never for the crowd. It was for the few, the misfits, the voices in hiding, the carriers of unreleased blueprints. And now they're watching you, not for inspiration, but for alignment. Keep walking, not to be seen, but because your walk is the confirmation that what they've been hearing in secret was real all along. You no longer ask, "Am I the one?" Now you walk like the answer. Because everything you've been through, everything you've lost, everything that tried to break you, wasn't punishment. It was proof of selection. Only the ones carrying this level of signal are refined this deeply. Only the ones called to awaken others must first learn to live fully awake themselves. And that's what you are now, fully awake. To timing, to instruction, to the invisible movement of heaven behind closed doors. You don't need signs anymore. You are the sign. When you step in, the atmosphere shifts. When you speak, the fog lifts. When you're silent, the tension speaks louder than words ever could. Because your alignment has become a spiritual disruption. The kind that makes false things fall apart. The kind that makes dormant things come alive. The kind that activates memory in those who've forgotten what they came here to do. And you've accepted this now. You've stopped asking for it to be easier. You've stopped asking to blend in. You've stopped negotiating the cost. Because once the signal activates fully in you, comfort dies and calling takes over. Now you walk in instructions. Now you live in rhythm. Now you feel when heaven leans in. And you respond like someone who understands the weight of that trust. This is sacred. It's rare. It's not for everyone, but it's for you. You're not leading from effort. You're leading from agreement. And your agreement is making the ground move. Not because you shouted, but because you said yes quietly when no one clapped, when no one noticed, when no one else heard what you did. They will now, because your signal is no longer in waiting. It's in motion. And those meant to rise with you, they'll hear it clearly. Now walk like a living frequency. The others are ready.